Have you ever wondered how a simple religious ritual could have transformed into one of the greatest mass spectacles of antiquity? Imagine being in the heart of Rome, in the imposing Colosseum, surrounded by thousands of eager spectators waiting for the start of an epic battle. This was the entertainment scenario in ancient Rome, a spectacle that evolved from religious practices to become a grandiose event funded by the state. The Roman games, initially conceived as religious rituals, quickly metamorphosed into bloody and elaborate spectacles, reflecting not just the culture and politics of Roman society, but also its evolution. From their origins in religious rituals to becoming tools of social control and political propaganda, the games at the Colosseum represented the strength and grandeur of Rome. In this documentary, we will explore this fascinating transformation. We will unveil how these games evolved over the centuries, attracting crowds from all social classes and leaving a legacy that endures to this day. Prepare for a journey back in time, where we will explore every aspect of this evolution, from its religious roots to the state-funded spectacles that marked the history of Rome. Stay with us as we unravel the secrets of the Roman games, revealing how they shaped and reflected the society of ancient Rome. The origin of the Roman games. The Roman games, known as ludi, have their roots deeply intertwined with the religious and cultural practices of ancient Rome. Initially, these events were not intended to entertain, but to honor the gods and ensure their benevolence towards the city and its inhabitants. The origin of the Roman games dates back to religious rituals that involved sacrifices and ceremonies in honor of the gods. These rituals were an integral part of the Roman religious calendar, occurring during important festivals such as the Saturnalia and Lupercalia. It was believed that through these sacrifices and games, the Romans could appease the gods, obtain their blessings, and ward off natural disasters or epidemics. The first records of public games in Rome date back to the 6th century BC, during the reign of Tarquin the Proud, the 5th king of Rome. He organized the first Ludi Romani, a festival that included chariot races and simulated combat, all in honor of Jupiter, the supreme god. These events were held at the Circus Maximus, one of Rome's earliest and largest entertainment venues. Over time, these games began to include a wider variety of activities, such as horse racing, athletic competitions, and even fights between prisoners of war, who served as human offerings. The games were seen as a form of expiation, a way to purify the city and its citizens, as well as to demonstrate the piety and power of Roman leaders. As Rome expanded its territory and power, the influence of other cultures began to shape these events. The Etruscan culture, for example, brought elements from their own rituals and competitions, further enriching the Roman games. This fusion of traditions helped to transform the ludi from simple religious rituals into elaborate public spectacles, marking the beginning of an evolution that would lead to the grand mass entertainment we know today. Thus, the Roman games began their long journey, evolving from humble religious practices to become one of the pillars of entertainment and Roman culture, reflecting the changes and growth of Rome over the centuries. Religious rituals and sacrifices. To fully understand the evolution of the Roman games, it is essential to examine the central role of religious rituals and sacrifices in the daily life of ancient Rome. From the beginning, the Romans believed that their actions needed to align with the will of the gods to ensure the prosperity and protection of the city. Religious rituals in Rome were meticulously planned and conducted with great solemnity. Each ceremony was a public demonstration of devotion and obedience to the gods, often involving animal sacrifices, which varied in type and quantity depending on the deity being honored. For example, bulls, sheep, and pigs were common in sacrifices to Jupiter, while Diana, the goddess of the hunt, received sacrifices of deer. Human sacrifices, though less common, were also part of the earlier rituals, especially in times of crisis or war. Slaves and prisoners of war were offered as an extreme form to obtain divine favor. Over time, these human sacrifices became less frequent, replaced by simulated combats between prisoners and slaves, which served both to entertain the public and to appease the gods. A notable example of religious rituals that included games and sacrifices is the Lupercalia festival. Celebrated in February, this festival was dedicated to Faunus, the god of fertility and herds. The priests, called Luperci, sacrificed goats and dogs, whose skins were then used to strike women in hopes of increasing their fertility. This festival combined elements of religious purification with public entertainment, being a precursor to the more elaborate games that would follow. Another important festival was Saturnalia, a celebration in honor of Saturn, the god of agriculture and time. This festival, held in December, was marked by feasting, gift exchanges, and a temporary reversal of social order, where slaves and masters switched places. The games during Saturnalia included athletic and theatrical competitions, reflecting the gradual evolution of religious rituals into entertainment events. These rituals and sacrifices not only reinforced social cohesion and public order, but also served as a form of political propaganda. Roman leaders used these events to demonstrate their power and piety, funding large festivals and games to win the favor of the people and to show their dominion over the divine and the human. As Rome grew in size and influence, the nature of the games evolved. The focus gradually shifted from simple sacrifice rituals to elaborate spectacles that included chariot races, gladiator fights, and even staged naval battles. However, the connection between these events and religious devotion remained strong, reflecting the Roman belief that the favor of the gods was crucial for the success and stability of the empire. Thus, religious rituals and sacrifices were the foundation upon which the Roman games evolved, transforming from devotional practices into grand spectacles that fascinated and entertained the masses, while maintaining the social and political structure of Rome intact. The Etruscan influence. To fully understand the evolution of Roman games, it is crucial to recognize the significant influence of the Etruscans, one of the peoples who inhabited the Italian peninsula before the rise of Rome. The Etruscans, with their rich and distinctive culture, left an indelible mark on Roman traditions, especially in religious practices and games. The Etruscans were known for their elaborate religious rituals and public games, which included a variety of physical competitions and theatrical performances. Among the most notable elements of their culture were gladiatorial fights, which initially were part of funeral rites. These combats were seen as a way to honor the dead, providing them with a blood sacrifice that would help appease the gods and ensure a safe passage to the afterlife. When the Romans conquered and assimilated the Etruscans, they adopted many of their customs and traditions, including gladiatorial games. This cultural assimilation was a gradual but profound process that shaped how the Romans conceived and organized their own games. The Etruscans also introduced the Romans to the concept of ludi scenizii, theatrical performances that combined elements of drama, music, and dance. These theatrical spectacles, often presented during religious festivals, were a popular form of entertainment among the Etruscans and were quickly incorporated into the Roman festive calendar. Another aspect of Etruscan influence was the introduction of the ludus Troiae, a type of military simulation involving young nobles performing maneuvers on horseback. This practice served not only as military training but also as a spectacle for the public, showcasing the skill and bravery of the participants. The Romans adapted this practice, using it as a way to display the prowess of their young aristocrats, as well as to reinforce military discipline and preparation. The Etruscans also contributed to the architecture and engineering of the venues where the games were held. The early Roman amphitheaters were heavily influenced by Etruscan designs, which prioritized visibility and acoustics, allowing large crowds to see and hear the events clearly. This architectural influence was crucial for the development of iconic structures such as the Colosseum, which would become the epicenter of Roman games. In addition to the physical elements and gaming traditions, Etruscan influence extended to symbolism and iconography. The Etruscans used specific symbols and rituals to invoke the protection of the gods during the games, a practice that the Romans adopted and integrated into their own rituals. These symbols were often displayed in opening ceremonies, strengthening the connection between the games and religion. Thus, the Etruscan influence was fundamental in transforming Roman games, providing a cultural and ritualistic foundation that the Romans expanded and adapted to create their own grand spectacles. This assimilation not only enriched Roman culture, but also helped establish the games as a central part of Rome's public and religious life. The first public games in Rome. As Rome expanded its influence and power, public games began to play an increasingly important role in the city's social and cultural life. These games, known as ludi, started to take shape during the Republican period when Roman leaders realized their potential not only as entertainment but also as a tool for social cohesion and political propaganda. The earliest records of public games in Rome date back to 509 BC, when the Roman Republic was established. These games were often organized in conjunction with major religious festivals, such as the Ludi Romani, also known as the Roman Games, which were held in honor of Jupiter, the supreme god of the Roman pantheon. The Ludi Romani included a series of events such as chariot races, gladiatorial combats, theatrical performances, and athletic competitions, which took place in the Circus Maximus, one of Rome's largest arenas. The Circus Maximus, one of the earliest and largest entertainment venues in ancient Rome, initially began as a simple open-air space but was gradually expanded and improved to accommodate an ever-growing audience. Chariot races were the most popular event, attracting spectators from all social classes. These races were not just a form of entertainment, but also a way for Roman leaders to display their power and generosity to the people. Public games also served as an opportunity for political leaders to gain popular support. Victorious generals often organized games to celebrate their military achievements and distribute part of the spoils among the people, thereby consolidating their popularity and influence. This practice became common during the Republican period, where games were funded by magistrates and politicians seeking favors and votes. In addition to chariot races, the early public games included gladiatorial combats, which became increasingly popular. Initially, these combats were held during aristocratic funerals as a form of homage to the dead, but over time, they transformed into independent public spectacles. Gladiators, often prisoners of war or slaves, fought to the death to entertain the public and demonstrate the strength and courage of the combatants. Theatrical performances also played an important role in the early public games. Inspired by Greek traditions, the Romans incorporated dramas, comedies, and tragedies into their festivals, offering the public a variety of cultural entertainment. These performances helped educate and entertain while reinforcing Roman values and ideologies. Over time, the organization of public games became more complex and sophisticated. Roman authorities created an official calendar of festivals and games, ensuring a constant flow of events to keep the people entertained and satisfied. This structure helped integrate the games into everyday Roman life, making them an essential part of Rome's cultural and social identity. Thus, the first public games in Rome marked the beginning of a tradition that would evolve over the centuries, transforming into grand spectacles that captured the imagination and fervor of the masses. From their humble origins to the elaborate state-funded events, the public games reflected the growing complexity and sophistication of Roman society, laying the groundwork for the monumental spectacles that would characterize the imperial era. The decline of Roman games. As the Roman Empire began to face increasing internal and external challenges, the grandeur and frequency of Roman games started to diminish. The decline of the games can be understood through various interrelated causes, including political, economic, social, and religious changes. As centuries passed, the Roman Empire faced serious economic difficulties. The exorbitant cost of organizing the games became unsustainable, especially during a period of inflation and currency devaluation. Maintaining amphitheaters, training gladiators, and importing exotic animals required vast financial resources, something that became increasingly difficult as the empire weakened economically. Political instability also contributed to the decline of the games. During the 3rd and 4th centuries AD, the empire suffered from leadership crises, civil wars, and barbarian invasions. Resources that were once allocated to the games were redirected to military defense and other urgent priorities. The need to protect the borders and maintain internal order outweighed the demand for public spectacles. The social and cultural transformation of the Roman Empire also played a significant role in the decline of the games. As the urban population decreased and city life became more dangerous, participation and interest in the games began to wane. Additionally, Rome's social structure was changing, with the growing influence of barbarians and the assimilation of their cultures. Public attitudes toward violence in the games also began to shift. The emotional toll of repeatedly watching public executions and deadly combats may have contributed to growing apathy or even repulsion towards the bloody spectacles. This shift in social sensitivity reflected a broader transformation in Roman culture. One of the most significant causes of the decline of Roman games was the rise of Christianity. As Christianity became the dominant religion in the Roman Empire, its values and principles began to profoundly influence society. Christian leaders condemned the games as immoral and barbaric, incompatible with the teachings of peace and compassion in Christianity. Several Christian emperors took explicit measures to reduce or abolish the games. Constantine, the first Christian emperor, banned gladiatorial executions in 325 AD. Later, Emperor Honorius issued a decree in 404 AD that officially ended gladiatorial combats, influenced by growing church pressure and changing public attitudes. Although Roman games declined, their legacy endured in various ways. Amphitheaters, such as the Colosseum, remain as impressive monuments of Roman engineering and culture, attracting millions of tourists and scholars. The memory of gladiatorial games continued to fascinate and inspire throughout the centuries, reflected in works of art, literature, and more recently, in cinema. The decline of the games also marked a significant shift in how public entertainment was conceived. As society evolved, forms of entertainment became less violent and more diverse, incorporating theatrical, musical, and athletic elements more aligned with emerging Christian values. The decline of Roman games reflects the profound changes that occurred in the Roman Empire during its final centuries. It represents the collapse of an ancient tradition that, for a long time, was central to Roman identity. However, it also signals the beginning of a new era, marked by different values and cultural practices. The study of the decline of Roman games offers valuable insight into the dynamics of power, culture, and religion in one of history's greatest civilizations. It reminds us that cultural and entertainment practices are not static but are subject to continuous change, influenced by political, economic, and social transformations. Thus, while the cries of the arena have fallen silent and the blood spilled on the sands of the amphitheaters has dried, the history of Roman games continues to resonate as a powerful testimony to the complexity and evolution of human society. The legacy of Roman games in modern culture. Although Roman games ended many centuries ago, their impact and legacy persist in modern culture in surprising and profound ways. From architecture to entertainment, the principles and grandeur of Roman games continue to influence and inspire various areas of contemporary society. Roman amphitheaters, such as the Colosseum, served as models for many modern stadiums around the world. The oval shape, tiered seating, and focus on visibility for all spectators are elements adopted in contemporary sports stadiums. The concept of a space where large crowds can watch events in an organized and safe manner has its roots in the designs of Roman amphitheaters. Many modern stadiums used for sports such as football, basketball, and athletics reflect this architectural heritage. The construction techniques and engineering developed by the Romans are still studied and applied today, demonstrating the durability and innovation of Roman methods. The principles of Roman games as mass entertainment have survived and evolved over the centuries. The modern entertainment industries, including sports, cinema, and television, have been profoundly influenced by Roman spectacles. The idea of offering the public exciting and visually impressive events is a direct legacy of the games in the Colosseum. Sporting events like the Olympic Games, the World Cup, and boxing and MMA, mixed martial arts, fights carry elements of the ancient Roman games. The dramatization, presentation of competitors, and celebration of winners are reminiscent of the practices of Roman gladiators and athletes. Gladiators and their fights have become cultural icons, representing courage, endurance, and sacrifice. These themes have been perpetuated in works of art, literature, and, more recently, in cinema. Films like Gladiator and TV series like Spartacus revive the fascinating era of Roman games, capturing the imagination of modern audiences. These narratives not only entertain but also offer reflections on human nature, the struggle for freedom, and resilience in the face of adversity. The figure of the gladiator has transformed into a symbol of defiance against oppression, a theme that resonates in many contemporary stories. Roman games have also provoked philosophical and ethical debates that continue to influence modern society. The brutality of the combats and the celebration of violence in the games have been subjects of analysis and criticism, leading to discussions about the ethics of violent entertainment and human dignity. These debates are relevant to how contemporary society deals with violence in media, sports, and real life. The history of Roman games serves as a reminder of the consequences of glorifying violence and the importance of reflecting on the values we promote through entertainment. The sites of ancient Roman games, especially the Colosseum, are now major tourist destinations, attracting millions of visitors every year. These ruins not only offer a window into the past, but are also a significant source of income and cultural pride. The preservation and restoration of these historical sites are ongoing efforts involving archaeologists, historians, and governments. The appreciation of Roman heritage through educational tourism helps keep the memory of the games alive and transmits historical lessons to new generations. Roman games also left a legacy in administrative and legal practices. The organization of the games involved complex logistics, public and private funding, and detailed regulations, aspects that influenced modern administrative practices. The use of public events to reinforce authority and promote social cohesion is a strategy still employed by governments and institutions. The legacy of Roman games in modern culture is vast and multifaceted. From architecture and entertainment to ethics and administration, the principles and practices developed during the height of the Roman Empire continue to shape and inspire contemporary society. While the time of the gladiators and great amphitheaters has passed, the essence of Roman games lives on in modern arenas, the stories we tell, and the values we uphold. The study and reflection on Roman games not only help us better understand the past, but also offer valuable insights into the present and future. They remind us of the human capacity to create, entertain, reflect, and evolve, perpetuating a legacy that continues to resonate through the centuries.